God is dead. God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche's startling declaration, God is dead, we have killed him, remains one of the most provocative and controversial phrases in Western philosophy. Far from being a simple denial of religious belief, this statement encapsulates a profound critique of the values of 19th century Europe, particularly the growing influence of secularism and the decline of traditional religious beliefs. Nietzsche's proclamation, often misinterpreted as a literal statement about the death of a divine being, is far more complex. It reflects the consequences of the erosion of religious faith on morality, culture, and the search for meaning in a post-religious world. Welcome, everyone, to the unfolding journey. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most controversial and provocative ideas in Western philosophy. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, God is dead, but what did Nietzsche really mean by it? Was he declaring a literal death of a divine being? Or was this a reflection of the profound changes taking place in society and culture during his time? Stick with us as we explore the philosophical depths of Nietzsche's ideas and how they continue to challenge us today. In this video, we will explore Nietzsche's declaration within its historical, philosophical, and existential context, breaking down its deeper meaning, its impact on philosophy, and its relevance to contemporary thought. What did Nietzsche mean when he proclaimed that God is dead? What does it reveal about the evolution of human consciousness? And why did he argue that humanity must confront the implications of such a momentous shift in worldview? We will also examine how Nietzsche's critique of religion and morality led to his concept of the Übermensch, Overman, or Superman, a radical call for the creation of new values in a post-religious world. So let's dive in and unpack the meaning behind Nietzsche's famous declaration, its philosophical underpinnings, and the profound consequences it has had for generations of thinkers. To fully understand the depth of Nietzsche's claim, it is essential to grasp the historical context in which he was writing. The 19th century was a time of immense intellectual and cultural transformation. The Enlightenment, which had begun in the 18th century, had already set the stage for a rational, scientific worldview that increasingly placed human reason at the center of understanding the universe. In this climate, the authority of traditional religious institutions, particularly Christianity, began to be questioned more vigorously. In Europe, the rise of secularism and the advance of scientific discoveries, particularly the theory of evolution by natural selection proposed by Charles Darwin, undermined religious explanations of human life and the natural world. This shift in thought left many to grapple with the loss of a cohesive, transcendent meaning for life. Nietzsche was acutely aware of the growing skepticism toward Christianity in his native Germany and across Europe. In The Gay Science, Nietzsche introduces the famous passage in which a madman enters the marketplace, holding a lantern and declaring to an indifferent crowd, God is dead. The madman, distressed by the crowd's failure to grasp the significance of his words, goes on to lament that humanity has killed God through its embrace of reason, science, and secularism. He speaks of the profound consequences of this loss, but the crowd dismisses him as a madman, illustrating society's ignorance of the magnitude of what has occurred. This scene, although symbolic, highlights Nietzsche's critique of modernity. Humans have abandoned the religious framework that once provided meaning, order, and moral guidance, but they have not yet come to terms with the consequences of this abandonment. Nietzsche's famous declaration that God is dead represents far more than just an atheist dismissal of religious belief. It is a philosophical statement about the profound shift in human consciousness and the collapse of a metaphysical religious order that had for centuries provided answers to the most fundamental questions about existence, morality, and the meaning of life. The phrase is not a celebration of atheism, as some critics have misunderstood. Nietzsche was not merely stating that belief in God was fading away. Rather, he was observing that humanity had killed the concept of God by rejecting the framework of religious meaning and morality that had dominated Western thought. This death represents a radical transformation in how we understand the world and our place in it. With God removed as the ultimate source of meaning and moral authority, human beings are left without a clear guide to navigate existence. The implications of the death of God are profound. Religion had once offered explanations for why we suffer, why we live, and what our moral duties are. Christianity, in particular, provided a framework that emphasized the afterlife, divine purpose, and moral absolutes. With the death of this divine order, humanity faces the void of meaning, left to create its own values and find its own purpose. But Nietzsche does not view this as an entirely negative outcome. In fact, he sees it as an opportunity for individual freedom. The loss of a transcendent authority means that we no longer have to adhere to preordained religious dogmas and moral codes. It gives rise to the possibility of self-creation, of forging new values from within the individual. The concept of nihilism is key to understanding the philosophical weight of Nietzsche's proclamation. Nihilism refers to the belief that life has no inherent meaning, value, or purpose. If God is dead and traditional religious and moral systems have lost their power, then the possibility arises that life itself is without meaning. Nietzsche was deeply concerned about the spread of nihilism. If people accepted that there is no divine meaning or purpose, they could fall into despair, feeling that existence is ultimately pointless. This crisis is particularly acute in modernity, where people have lost faith in traditional religious narratives, but have not yet developed new life-affirming philosophies to replace them. Without a sense of objective purpose, individuals could succumb to a sense of futility and disillusionment. However, Nietzsche does not see nihilism as the final word. In fact, he argues that it is an inevitable consequence of the death of God, a necessary stage in human evolution. He believes that facing the reality of nihilism opens up a new possibility, the opportunity to create new values that are life-affirming, grounded in the will to power and the flourishing of the individual. In the wake of nihilism, Nietzsche proposed the concept of the Übermensch, often translated as Overman or Superman, as a new model for human existence. The Übermensch represents an individual who has transcended traditional morality and embraces the freedom to create new values and meaning for themselves. Rather than relying on external religious or social systems for moral guidance, the Übermensch is self-determined, grounded in their own will and creativity. Nietzsche introduces the concept of the Übermensch most famously in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, where the protagonist Zarathustra preaches that humanity must overcome its limitations and embrace a higher form of existence. The Übermensch is an idealized figure who does not merely accept life as it is but actively shapes it, creating new ideals that affirm life, embrace suffering, and celebrate individuality. The Übermensch is not confined by the constraints of traditional moralities, particularly those rooted in Christianity, but instead creates a philosophy that is grounded in strength, vitality, and self-overcoming. For Nietzsche, the Übermensch is the antidote to nihilism. Where nihilism might lead to despair, the Übermensch offers a vision of flourishing and strength through the embrace of life's challenges. The Übermensch is the individual who accepts life in all its suffering, struggles, and contradictions, and turns them into a creative force for personal and philosophical growth. Nietzsche's declaration that God is dead, and his subsequent exploration of the Übermensch and nihilism, had a profound influence on later philosophical movements. His critique of traditional morality and his vision of a post-religious world laid the groundwork for existentialism and postmodernism. In the 20th century, existentialist philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus were deeply influenced by Nietzsche's ideas. Sartre's notion that existence precedes essence echoes Nietzsche's call for individuals to create their own values in a world devoid of inherent meaning. Sartre's existentialism emphasizes radical freedom, where the individual is responsible for giving their life purpose in a universe that offers none. Camus, in his work The Myth of Sisyphus, grapples with the problem of how to live in a world without divine purpose. He famously argued that while life may be absurd and without ultimate meaning, the struggle to find meaning in the face of that absurdity is itself what gives life value. Camus' philosophy of the absurd is a direct response to the nihilism Nietzsche predicted. Nietzsche's ideas also influenced postmodern thinkers like Michel Foucault and Jacques Derrida, who questioned the very foundations of knowledge, power, and morality. Foucault's genealogical method, for instance, examines how moral and social norms have evolved, challenging the supposed truths of traditional moral systems. Derrida's deconstruction, likewise, seeks to unravel the assumptions underpinning Western thought, revealing how traditional ideas of meaning and truth are contingent rather than absolute. Nietzsche's declaration that God is dead is not just a nihilistic statement of despair. It is a radical invitation to rethink the foundations of meaning, morality, and human existence. Through his critique of religion and traditional morality, Nietzsche invites us to confront the profound implications of living in a world without a divine authority. While the death of God presents an existential crisis, it also opens up the possibility of human freedom. The freedom to create new values, to live authentically, and to embrace life on our own terms. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch offers an inspiring vision of human potential, urging us to transcend the limitations of conventional morality and rise to new heights of strength, creativity, and self-overcoming. Far from being a fatalistic philosophy, Nietzsche's work offers an affirmative response to the challenges of nihilism and the absence of divine meaning. It calls us to forge our own path in a world that is free from the constraints of traditional religious and moral systems. In conclusion, Nietzsche's legacy continues to resonate in contemporary thought. His ideas have shaped the course of existentialism, nihilism, and postmodernism, influencing thinkers who have grappled with the implications of living in a world where traditional values no longer hold sway. Nietzsche's vision of human potential, the Übermensch, remains a powerful call for individuals to embrace their freedom, create their own values, and live authentically in a world that no longer offers easy answers. If you found this exploration of Nietzsche's philosophy intriguing, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into philosophical ideas that continue to shape the world today.